Hey guys, Bodine here, and we're standing here with Don Hal. We're going to sit and talk about UFC right now because Bodine called it and Bodine got it. We're talking UFC. Don had experience to work with it, talk over a little bit about it, and know some people who are deeply involved in it. Go ahead and talk about your experience here, big guy. Great to have you in the show, man.
No problem.
By the way, he's my cousin, man, so watch out. He's my bodyguard. All right.
Well, I just want to say I moved to Arizona back in like '97, and I had an opportunity when I was out there to work with a guy named Christy Pasquale, and over the years he's been involved with mixed martial arts, and I had an opportunity to train for a few years at his clinic, and we've had a lot of guys come through. They refer to as rolled, you know, when you wrestle and grapple with guys like Christoph Leninger, Rico Rodriguez. And,
roll. What is that like for? Well,
roll means to actually, like, sparring is you know, it's just the grappling, and it's just the terminology they use. So if someone says, "Hey, you want to roll?" that means they're just gonna, you know, you're gonna work on technique. You're gonna work on you could be on a bag, a dummy, or you could be one-on-one with somebody. If you've watched Spike TV, a lot of times they're, you know, they don't have all the guys to work with, so you'll have a dummy to work with or something, and you can actually get a heck of a good workout. You just start working technique, and it's repetition, just like football, just like basketball, just like baseball. It's the same type of influences, so to speak. You got to have fundamentals, you know, you have to have building blocks, and I think a lot of it, you know, the wrestlers usually have an advantage because they can take it to the ground pretty quick, and but then you can tie in judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu and pancreatic fighting, and there's just so many different variables. And I think the bottom line is that these guys come into shape nowadays. I think in the very beginning when you watched UFC, a lot of them were just like really big guys that, you know, really didn't have a lot of
sort of like Tank Abbott, who just had power in his fist.
Yeah, and if Tank had some endurance, he would be a tough one too, because he definitely started to improve on his ground game, which a lot of them did.
Maybe if you bicycle ride every once in a while between cheeseburgers and stuff, he might work out.
Yeah, but and you know what? Not in Arizona. I think the other thing that was big is that they, you know, it was grassroots. So you had a lot of people that were doing what they called King of the Cage, and you got a lot of people there. In fact, you would see, remember the Dan and Dave commercials for Reebok? Dan was always there. And then,
oh yeah, definitely.
And then you also had the swimmer, the one that won the gold medal for the United States, the one from Arizona. He was there. There was a lot of people that were actually there, just, you know, because it was pretty intense back in those days. So
what I remember most about the change from is I remember the Tank Abbott fighting a bunch of other big heavyset guys going toe to toe. Is how in shape? What is some of the stuff they do to keep so much in shape out there?
Well, usually what you start out with is you go through like an individual time conditioning, and then you go right into grappling. And usually, for the most part, your sparring will take place at the end of the workout when you're the weakest, where you don't have grip, where you don't have your mind is off, you're not focused. It's like that's the hardest part of the training, because that's what will probably happen when you're in a match, is that you're not going to have all your faculties. You may get distracted, whatever it is, you're getting tired, and as you get worn down, that's all you do is make one light, quick mistake, and someone can submit you. And I think for the most part, that's why the training's usually done in that sequence, is that they usually go right at the very end when you start your sparring. But other people do it differently. You can go to a lot of other clinics and stuff, like in California, there's a whole crew, and before they started doing the international fight thing now that I'm seeing, or the camps and the teams, we were doing that out in Arizona too.
Similar to what Spike TV was doing with, let's say, Matt Hughes and Rich Frank, back and forth, sort of competing against each other.
Yep.
Sort of like the biggest one was between Shamrock and Ortiz, because that got real heated in the camps when they're doing Spike TV. They don't like each other.
No, I think the bottom line with those two is respect. I think Tito wasn't somebody who was going to step down from him, and obviously the Shamrock is a pretty big name in the industry, so yeah, he kind of demands respect. So, but you know, sometimes you have to earn it, and that's what happens. It's like in every sport, you know, you're only as good as your last fight or your last game or your, you know, whatever you did last. So Shamrock's been around a long time. And you can also see it with a lot of those guys now are in Pride and other divisions now, and they're still fighting. It's almost like 40 and up. It's just as competitive as you know, the guys in their 20s. So.
And the thing too, we were speaking about before off the air, is we were talking a little bit about Chuck Liddell and Quentin Jackson, who haven't fought yet. So we're going to rerun this broadcast probably after the fight, but I want to get his breakdown and rundown, since he knows more about this than myself or even Tony does. So why don't you go into a little bit about what you see in Chuck Liddell coming up to fight, you know, Jackson, because Jackson looks pretty impressive, but to me, he looks like a WWE wannabe. But I wouldn't say it to his face, but I'm just saying he looks with his chain and his look. He sort of looks like Booker T with the chains and trying to be all crazy. And Chuck Liddell seems like the boxer from old school, just goes in there and says, I'm just going to beat him, just going to knock him out?
Well, what's interesting is they both have very similar personalities. Like, they're outside the ring, those two are just class acts. If you've ever had a chance to actually meet them, I haven't, but I know people that have. And you know, Chuck is just, it's his job, you know. He's just like anything else, a plumber or a lawyer or whatever. He goes to work, he puts his game face on, but when he's out, he's relaxed, he's casual. You'll see him on a lot of different shows and stuff, and sitcoms and things, because he's got a great personality. And the same thing with Rampage Jackson. I think, you know, he's got a great personality. He's younger. I think when they fought in Pride, I think the one thing was that, you know, it was a conditioning thing. I think Chuck may have been a little bit tired. I think what people have to understand is their body weight has to be so low for weigh-in that sometimes you know, when you get down to that weight and then you gain some weight back, it's hard on your body. So it kind of throws everything out of whack. And I think he just got gassed, lightheaded, and got tired near the end there. And you know, he really didn't get submitted. He just, you know, they just ended the fight on blows. But my feeling is Rampage will probably, you know, win in the end, only because I'm thinking he's younger, 28 versus 37, and experienced. They're both very experienced, and they both got really good jaws. And but you know, it just depends on who lands the most punches in the beginning and who gets the advantage.
Man, he's got like a SpongeBob roll all set for himself. Listen, guys, this is Bodine. It's my turn, and I have my spick on Z Sports Lounge. We'll tune in next time. We're going to have some cow sports. Maybe we'll pick up with this guy on the phone call when we go streaming live. This is Bodine signing off. Thank you all. There you go. All set. Click it.